If you knew you were enough, what would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzette Virnon. Hello everybody, it's your girl Suzette Virnon, your life coach and relationship solutionist. How are y'all doing? I hope you're doing great. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of my Enough Factor podcast. Over the last several weeks, you've been hearing from so many amazing people, but as we're drawing season 2 to a close, I think that the last voice that you need to hear is mine. So I just wanted to say hello and thanks for joining, especially those who subscribe and follow and listen every week. I appreciate you. You are the backbone of this podcast, and I thank you so much for listening. Out of all the podcasts you could have listened to at this very moment, you decided to listen to me. That's pretty darn cool. Now, if you're new, let me tell you a little bit about what this podcast is all about. It's about helping high-achieving women define what makes them enough in life and in love on their own terms. You see, I understand that our views, our values, our beliefs about ourselves have been shaped by others from the time we were born. We've been told what to do and what not to do, how to be and how not to be. And if you are a high-achieving woman, your enoughness for the most part was determined by how well you performed. If you made an A on your test, you were celebrated. If you made a D, not so much. That's why this podcast focuses on 3 critical factors. I call them 3 critical factors of enoughness. They are your voice, your value, and your vision. If you tend to lose yourself, your voice, right, in your relationships, then this episode is for you. If you stay in a relationship longer than you should, and that the longer you stay in the relationship, the less of yourself shows up, this episode is for you. And if you are a man pleaser, meaning that you feel like you need to please a man in order to feel worthy, this episode is for you. And because I'd say about 90% of the women who seek me for help are struggling in their relationships with men, today's episode is being brought to you by Do You Speak Male? It's about the 5 C's of understanding a man's language. So whether it's losing yourself in relationships or betraying yourself to keep a man, all roads lead to one person. Men, right? And the questions that you have about men. Why wasn't I good enough? Why wasn't I good enough for him to love me? Why wasn't I good enough for him to commit to me? Why wasn't I good enough for him to treat me right? So, Do You Speak Male is the culmination of my years of trying to answer those questions myself. The up, the down, the sideways, the thinking I had it right only to find out I didn't have it right, right? And so I decided to give to you what it was that would have helped me if I was in my 20s, early 30s, and what has helped me to make better choices about myself and about men that has culminated in me marrying a fine, wonderful man. So my 5-part program is the solution. It dispels the myths and the misinformation that keep women stuck in what I call relationship jail, unable to get out. So just consider it kind of like your get out of jail free card. So check it out. It's at bit.ly bit.ly/speak mail now. Again, that's bit.ly/speak mail now, all lowercase. So let's talk about where things have been since I did a solo episode. So much stuff has been coming to the forefront since Miss Rona showed up at our doorstep. I feel like she's held us at gunpoint, right? Threatening our way of life and our way of loving. And in this sheltering in place, whatever you want to call it, so much has come up for me. Has that happened with you all, that as a result of life slowing down and not being able to go out like you used to, and you're alone with yourself a lot more, that you've had to really face some things that maybe you were too busy to face? Well, that's what's happened with me. And so when I think that I have like matured and gotten all the way grown, the way that I thought before Miss Rona came, girlfriend shows up at my door, and here I am really examining my life and really examining my relationships. And what I found is it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be in your 20s, your late 20s, or you can be like me in your early 60s. You can be older, but not wiser. You can be older and stuck on stupid and not even know it, right? And that's been the beauty of slowing down and sheltering in place. It's helped me to face some of my ish. My friend Faith Joyner calls it ish. I call it my stuff. And it's caused me to have to face some of that and really have an opportunity to allow relationships to hold up a mirror so that I could see myself better. The first thing, finding love later in life, has brought my stuck on stupid to the forefront. And that's a humbling thing. It's humbling to know that while you were praying and wanting to find your Mr. Right, there is a lot of Mrs. Wrong that never got dealt with. I know. Y'all take a seat, or as Wendy Williams says, take several seats, because we get ready to go in. And I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about what has come up for me. And I know, because I am a recovering high achieving woman, I know that similarly, some of this stuff has probably come up for you, or it will come up for you. So for mature ladies who want a mature, loving, grown and sexy relationship, or you're still holding out hopes that you'll get married and grow old together, I got to share with you what I am learning as a somewhat newlywed person that got married later in life to my forever love. I've said it a gazillion times, and I'm going to say it a gazillion more. I knew how to get out of a bad relationship, but your girl didn't know how to be in a good one. That was the stuck on stupid that never got challenged in the bad relationships. I did not have the coping skills for a good relationship. I only had the coping skills for a bad relationship. And so being in a good relationship, though I prayed for it, wanted it, fantasized about it, brought that reality to the forefront. I only had the coping skills to help me to keep my sanity in a suffering, toxic environment. So let me tell you what I learned. Finding Mr. Right will bring your stuck on stupid to the forefront. It will. It will. I told y'all, y'all said you were ready for grown-up relationships. You were ready for, so I got to give it to you grown-up style. So I'm coming through, y'all. I'm coming through. Or like some of my friends say, I'm getting ready to give you a whole word. Every brick that has built your relationship life has been suffering to stay in what only dishonored you the longer you stayed. So everything in your orb, relationally, has been built from that standpoint. Even if you dated, even if you moved in together, even if you got married, that relationship did not nourish you. So you stayed in a starving, hunger, pain-inducing, suffering relationship and did everything you could to make yourself comfortable so you could continue to stay in it. There is no growing together in a bad relationship. There is only suffering together. In a bad relationship, one that you're not happy in but are staying because you quote unquote love him, that suffering kind, you aren't growing. You're suffering. You aren't becoming your best self. You're suffering. And all the things that you do are to help you feel better in the suffering. So you can stay or better in the suffering so he won't leave. So your win of the day is, child, I got through, right? You did what you needed to do to stay in there a minute, an hour, a day longer. And your concern was finding a way to stay because you didn't want it to end. You may have wanted the suffering to end, but you didn't want your relationship to end. Regardless of how toxic, bad, dehumanizing, dishonoring it was. Let's all have a collective breath. You know, I can hear a young lady in my head saying, breathe, beloved, breathe. Just take a breath. Take a breath. And I want to tell you, I'm not saying this because I want to make you feel bad. Not at all. I'm telling you this because I had to wake up. Not that this relationship that I have now is bad. It's not at all. But I had to wake up to the fact that when you've never been in a good relationship, you don't know how to be in a good one. Right? And that a lot of my resistance, even in a good relationship, was because I felt uncomfortable. And because it made me feel insecure, I wasn't used to it. I almost sabotaged what could be good. That's why I feel like I had to tell you this. And that's why I truly believe that anybody, no matter how woke you feel like you are, no matter how many relationship books you've read, how many seminars you've attended, I really feel like anybody who is entering into a serious, long-term, getting married later in life relationship needs to have a professional on speed dial. Because the longer you're in it, the more your ability to cope in a bad relationship, but inability to cope in a good one, is going to come to the forefront. And you see mama and daddy, your girlfriends, your BFF, can't help you with that. None of them can help you unlearn familiar and learn skills that you've never known before. They can tell you what you ought to do, but they can't change your experience. Your inner experience can only be changed from the inside out. And only a trained professional can help you with that. And I used to wonder why people would have aha moments but no transformation. And that's the very reason. You can have an aha moment, but if you don't do the work to evolve that aha moment into real action, into real learning and unlearning, then nothing really transformative happens in your relationships. At 55, when I got married, I thought that love would solve everything. That love would somehow make what happened in my past vanish. I thought that him loving me and him being a good man would be enough. But when I felt uncomfortable, insecure, triggered, in true stuck on stupid fashion, I would blame him for it. And I would run this discourse in my head. It's like somebody would press the play button and all those negative beliefs and thoughts and accusations started running around in my head. And the longer I left it undealt with, the more those things in my head started convincing me I was right. And that was the me that knew how to get out of a bad relationship or knew how to be in one until I got out of it, right? Be in a bad relationship only to navigate my way out of it. I knew how to do that because that's the only skills I had acquired and the only mindset. I brought all of that into my marriage. And I would look at my husband with the same mind through the same lens. And I did not realize that love was trying to cast a light on me. I thought love was trying to show him he was wrong. And it was very humbling, and it still is. It's humbling when love lets you know that what it's trying to show you is the Mrs. Wrong in you that never got dealt with. And that you still have a lot of Mrs. Wrong inside that needs to be unlearned, retrained, and given the authority to override that stuck on stupid thinking and the stuck on stupid coping. And when you have an unhealed love experience, I don't care how refined you are, getting in a relationship will bring it all to the forefront. So I said all that to say that just because he's the right man and you both love Jesus, it's not enough. You'll still have to work on you. You will still have to work on creating a balance between wanting what you want the way you want it and making room for somebody who operates in a completely different way. You'll have to create a balance between speaking up, right, and asking for what you want, right, which we're taught to do, and at the same time, creating a space that allows enough wriggle room for his vantage point and him asking for what he wants too. Sure, you're the queen of the castle, but he's also the king of the same castle. The second thing I want to tell you is that you have to lose the fantasies of your younger days. And it doesn't matter if your younger days were when you were 5, 10, 15, college years, just starting a job, adulting, or whether your younger days were a week or a month or a year ago. You've got to lose the fantasies of what you think your relationship ought to look like. I realized that many of my wants in my relationship were shaped by wants unfulfilled in my youth. I had a fantasy of what my man would do and be and how he'd respond. I had this vision in my head of what that would look like. And my good man would align with that vision because that would be what made him good, right? He would be everything I had on my list, even if I never wrote it down. Every expectation. He would right every wrong of the previous administration. It felt good saying that, But anyway, you know what I mean. But what I learned was very sobering. My good man, the answer to my prayer, did not align with that vision. And I almost messed up one of the best things in my life because I still had that fantasy in my head of what a loving man would look like, how he would treat me, how he would respond, what he'd say, what we'd do together. I had all that still in my brain. But you know what I found? That it was even better than that fantasy of my youth. Is that this man in my life, standing in front of me, was the evolution of that vision. He wasn't a clone of bad relationships. Not at all. But at the very same time, he wasn't the fantasy of my younger days. He was the evolution of that. But here's the thing. I had not evolved my vision. So when your vision of your life with someone has not evolved, you will start to question if he is actually what you thought. And you'll start to that coping, that stuck on stupid, that unchanged mindset will cause you to start looking at him through the side eye, right? And you'll start noticing yourself complaining. You'll see more things to complain about than to celebrate about him and your union. A friend of mine calls it, you'll have a complaint in your spirit. That's a great way to describe it. Now, you may not ever say it out loud, but the energy of your eye roll, woo, will be felt. Let me tell you. And this is what I had to learn. I'm still working on it. I feel like I'm getting better at it. Is I had to learn to get that in check. So you might be asking, well, Suzette, how do I get it in check? Because some of the things you're describing, I know they're in me. Then others of you might say, well, you know what? I don't know it's in me. But now that you're letting me know that this is something that will invariably come up, please don't leave me hanging. How do I get it in check? Okay, I'll tell you. Find you a relationship coach so you can already start dealing with your blind spots. So you can start dealing with those tape recordings in your head that want to try to convince you that they're true. And maybe they were in a bad relationship, but we're not trying to get in another bad relationship, are we, ladies? We're trying to get in a good one, right? And even if you get in a good one, it's not going to be a healthy one if you're unhealthy. So investing in someone to help you work that stuff out of you so that when Mr. Right comes in, he can help you unlearn some things the rest of the way. And for those of you who are already in a relationship, whether it be a long-term one or you're in a marriage and you got married later in life and didn't have the privilege of growing together, like those who have been married for a long time, let me tell you what I've had to practically do to get it in check. One of the things I had to practically do, I had to create situations where what I loved about my husband shines. I'll say it again. I had to create situations where what I love about my husband shines. And the beauty of it is in our dating and relating, we created enough wonderful moments. And even in our marriage, there are things that my husband does that he doesn't even know he's doing. But he just does them because that's the kind of person he is. And I've lived with him long enough to experience enough of those things that when we're going through a time that I find challenging, when I'm going through a time when that complaint wants to take root in my spirit, then all I need to do, honestly, is go downstairs and look around in my kitchen. And without fail, I will find something that he has done that will bring a smile to my face. Either he has bought me that apple pie from McDonald's that I love. Okay, don't y'all sleep on the apple pie from McDonald's. It's good to me. Warm that thing up in the microwave. Okay, that's good. I'll find something that he's done that's thoughtful. Because see, he and I are both foodies. So when I go in the kitchen, he's always done something thoughtful that I didn't have to tell him or remind him to do. Or even stuff that he does, like every time we eat, because we love to eat in the loft watching TV. So we'll bring our food from the kitchen up into the loft and then we'll start watching TV. Without fail, my husband will, if he finishes first, he will take his plate and pick up mine and take it downstairs to the kitchen. Another thing that he always does is he always puts the food away. And if I cultivate creating situations in my mind or basically changing my focus, right? Shifting my focus to what I love about him, right? To get me back in balance again. When I do that, when I see those things and I do that, it helps me to remember what it is I fell in love with them. And it also helps me to generate a little bit more of that euphoria, right? That warm, fuzzy, loving stuff. And that is a skill that you have to develop. Else, he'll put the food away and you'll go in the kitchen. And instead of being happy he put the food away, you'll get all upset that he didn't wipe the stove off. Right? So that's one of the things that in my marriage, a skill that I had to learn. And so that's one of the things that was real for me. So in the final analysis, let me bring this thing home. You can unlearn what's not working for you. And you can learn to become someone that you can trust. You don't have to keep attracting unhealthy love into your life. You don't have to stay stuck in a cycle of failed relationships. You don't have to become the toxicity that can ruin a relationship that could be good. You don't have to stay stuck in the old mindset and the old way of coping. You don't have to sabotage yourself. You really can change. And that's part of the reason why I'm continuing. I have done this webinar. This will be my third time doing it. And it's called How to Break the Cycle of Failed Relationships and Attract Healthy Love in Your Life. It's going to be August 27th, 12 noon. And that's Eastern time, y'all, because I know people listen from different time zones. But that's part of the reason that I've done it over and over again. And every time I do it, more people register for it. So I know this is the time. This is the time for this webinar. And it's because women really want to have great relationships, but they keep losing their voice. When you have complaint in your spirit, you've lost your voice, especially when it's a good situation. When you keep sabotaging yourself, you're losing your voice. When you allow stinking thinking and an old mindset to run roughshod over your relationship life, you are losing your voice. And so I debunk all that stuff, all that stuck on stupid stuff, right? Those myths that many of us high achieving, or in my case, recovering, high achieving women adopt. And though it's popular with us, it keeps us stuck. I tell you what has to happen in order for you to get closure. But most of all, I tell you how you can break that cycle and how you can stop attracting what you don't want and start attracting what you do. If you're interested in it, you can sign up. And if you want to learn more about how men are, maybe you have not gotten closure from the last relationship, and you want to understand men because you don't have the opportunity to talk to that man that broke your heart or that disappointed you. You don't have the opportunity to ask him why. I want you to know you don't need him to give yourself closure. But you do need to understand how men think and how men are so that you have something substantive to hang your closure on, right? And that's my Do You Speak Male solution. And if you're interested in that, again, you can access that at bit.ly/speak male now, all lowercase. That's what I wanted to share with you today. I wanted to amplify your voice. Next week, I'm going to be amplifying your value. And to end season 2, I'm going to be amplifying your vision. And so I invite you to come right back here next Sunday, same time, 8:00 a.m. Eastern time. And we'll be doing this all again. So that's it. Just in case nobody has told you, I want to remind you that you are worthy, you are worth it, you are more than enough. See you next week. Bye. You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Vernon. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.